Am I on? Testing, testing. Testing 1, 2, 3. Don't really know. Let's see here. So, hey, I got a new backdrop. I thought that looked a little better than the random door I had in the background for some of these videos. So let's give it another minute or two, see if anybody comes on board. And then we'll get started with this month's HUD sales training. Looking forward to working with everybody today. Should be a shorter meeting because we're just covering contract close. And I know it's a Sunday, so may not have anybody joining us, but we always do these at the end of the month. Let's see. So we can go ahead and get screen share up. Okay. It is 3 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. As many of you know, if you've ever attended my trainings before, this is recorded, will be posted on YouTube, and the link will be sent out for viewing later. So if you did happen to miss this, no sweat, it will be available. And we do this each month, actually. We cover a different section of the HUD selling process. As anything updates, I update the videos, and we go from there. So I am Shane Wilson with Shane Wilson Real Estate. I am a HUD listing broker covering Northwest Georgia. And today's topic is what happens once we're under contract on a HUD property. So the previous few months, I talked about how you can help your buyers find a HUD property, some things you need to know about when looking at HUD properties. And we talked about how to place a bid on the HUD property. And then once you went under contract, you know, filling out the contract electronically, earnest money requirements, all of that we covered. And today's topic, once you're under contract. So once you're under contract, the first step is highly recommend that your buyers get a home inspection. Now, HUD will give a property condition report. It'll be in the, there'll be a tab on HUDhomestore.com for the listing of the property. Before it goes under contract, please, you can, and also when you get the signed contract, the asset manager will typically attach them, but please review those because those are going to give you what HUD knows about. And there's a 15-day due diligence period for the buyer to get a home inspection on the property, to turn on electronics, to turn on utilities such as electricity and water. You have to have field service management authorization. So the company that takes care of the property is a field services management company. You need to contact them to get permission to turn on utilities to the property. The utilities must be in the buyer's name. So the buyer gets the power on, water on, whatever you want on, and as long as local codes allow it, and the home inspection can be done. Now, if something comes up on the home inspection that was not in the property condition report, the buyer can terminate the contract during this period and get their earnest money back. But it's got to be a valid reason. So, you know, in Georgia, we have the due diligence period. And generally speaking, excuse me while I drink some water. Generally speaking, you could cancel a contract for any reason. But for HUD properties, that is not the case. The contract cancellation has to be because of an issue that's not reported in the property condition report, and it must be a major issue. It can't be something such as the buyer does not like the paint color. It has to be a major issue to qualify as a reason to cancel the contract. Termite letters. HUD does not provide termite letters unless it's a state mandate. FHA, it must have a lender required letter. HUD will fund and treat repairs if there's a termite issue, if it's state or zone mandated, or if it's FHA financing. If the property does not meet the above conditions, then the buyer will be responsible for treatment and repairs after closing. So unless it's one of the two conditions required by the state or FHA financing, if there's termites, it's the buyer's responsibility after closing. They're not going to cancel the contract because of it. So keep that in mind. You can now, during the due diligence period, yes, during a 15-day period, if you find termites, that is a reason you can cancel the contract. But afterwards, it's up to the buyer. They got to take care of it. Buyers cannot make repairs before closing. Cannot emphasize this enough. Buyers cannot make repairs before closing. HUD frowns upon that and they get very upset about it. You as the agent, you're required to occupy buyers, inspectors, to make sure no one messes around with the property, basically. Again, no repairs. You can't try to sneak a repair in to get the loan qualified. The buyer should be working with a lender who's used to HUD properties and understands that the repairs would have to be escrowed and done after closing. Repairs cannot be made during the under contract period or while HUD owns the property. So let's talk about closing protocol. Nuts and bolts of closing. So here's the timeline. FHA and conventional, they have 45 days from contract acceptance to close. Cash has 30 days. And if it's FHA 203K, they have 60 days because those loans are obviously more intensive when you're trying to get contractor bids and items of that nature. So those are the key deadlines to keep in mind. They can happen before then, and they really prefer that you try to get them closed a few days before the absolute deadline. And the other thing is the asset manager A team, they have to have 5 days prior to closing to review the documents. So you have to have your attorney, the closing attorney, submit the closing documents 5 days before so they have time to review them and give approval. And in addition, me as a listing broker, I have to go to the property and do a ready to close inspection. And those usually have to be done at least 24 hours, 48 hours before closing. So give 5 days for the asset management company to review documents by the attorney. Extensions. All right. HUD does not waiver on extension. So if you have an owner occupant, they get one free extension for 15 days. Just one free extension. If it goes to a second extension, it's going to cost money. If your buyer is an investor, it's going to cost money regardless. There are no free extensions. So 0 to 25,000 is a $10 per day fee, and HUD does extensions in 15-day increments. So it would be $150. For 25 to 50,000, it's $15 and would be $225. If it's over 50,000, which most properties are, an extension is going to cost $375. And this is each time. So if you got to keep extending that, it's going to cost your buyer money. So you really want to try to stay on top of the lender, follow up with the lender, and make sure they're meeting their deadlines, because sometimes lenders just don't seem to care about deadlines. And bottom line is HUD does, and it's going to cost your buyers money if you keep having to extend deadlines. To extend the deadline, you've got to submit the fee in the form of a certified fund and mail it to the address, the overnight address on the form. forms that you need for HUD are on the A-Team website, and those are the forms you have to use. We do not use GAR forms for HUD properties. HUD has their own forms that they use, documentation that they use, and that's on the A-Team Realty website. So they must be submitted to the A-Team Realty 5 days prior to expiration, because again, HUD needs time to do things. It's not a quick process. Give them 5 days. You know, don't push things to the wire. I've seen contracts canceled because of that. Give them time. So hard copies must be submitted to the office, and you must include supporting documentation. The supporting documentation is just a letter from the lender stating what's the reason for the delay and what's the estimated time to close. All right. When are extensions waived? Basically, when it's the fault of HUD or the seller side. And the most common one is going to be owner-occupant extensions, not owner-occupants, title objections. You could tell it's a Sunday. Getting all my words mixed up here. Okay, so if there's a title issue, it's no fault of the buyer, they'll keep extending it at no cost to your buyer. And one other note, the 203K loan, you can get 2 free extensions because, again, those loans can be beast to get closed. So they do understand as long as you have the lender letter stating the reason for the delay and the estimated time to close, that covers extensions. And they're pretty easy to work with on extensions as long as you give them time to get it approved and don't push things to the last minute. All right, so we're almost there. Pre-closing walkthrough. So it's recommended that you complete the walkthrough the day prior to closing. Generally speaking, you want to make sure that the lockbox is not there, that you've coordinated with the listing agent and telling them, hey, I'm going to do my final walkthrough on this day at this time, so that we know that you're going to go there. Sometimes people don't do the final walkthrough, which I don't understand, but you do want to try to get your buyer to the final walkthrough when at all possible, because you want to identify that there's no issues. There's no vandalism. I've seen it happen where a final walkthrough did expose some new vandalism, and we had to work through that issue. So you don't want to not do the final walkthrough. You want to do it. Take your buyer, walk through their property, make sure everything's the same, and the closing will be postponed if there's issues to attend to, and there will not be an extension fee. And like I said, the only issue that ever comes up is if there's some kind of vandalism or change in the property that is degrading to the property in terms of value. Closing is done. Your buyer is now a proud new owner. We recommend they change the locks as soon as possible. Change the locks because the situation is HUD keys. Now, there's more than one HUD key, but those numbers get reused, and that means a HUD key can open multiple houses. So please tell your buyer to change the locks and get them rekeyed. Post-closing, it's at their expense. So we make sure that you guys can gain access to the property, the buyer can activate utilities, and that, my friends, is contract to close. So I know it's a little bit shorter of a session today. This last part always is, but it's also Sunday in January, so I don't want to keep anybody too long anyway. So I believe that is it. This will be posted up on YouTube. The link will be sent out. As always, if you have absolutely any questions, please let me know. You can email me, shane@pickshane.com, and I will help you out with any of your HUD-related needs. Thank you all to everyone who's watching this video, and we do this each month, so join us again next month, and we will start the training process all over again. All right, you guys have a great 2021, and we shall talk later.